Hi, friend.
Hi, friend.
And to the brave hearts listening out there, welcome to Permission to be Human. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Janelle.
Get ready for some real-time relationship woo and wisdom
from the front lines with occasional tantrums and tears
about how breaking rules, blurring boundaries, and tossing tradition can be catalysts for finding your truth.
Let's debunk the fairy tales we were told as children and create a new map for life.
Yes, Disney can go fuck itself.
If you're seeking permission to choose your own path,
freedom is the new F word, people,
and want to feel less alone along the way,
we got you. Please note, this is our side of the story. Our partners and metamours have their own individual experiences, and we do not speak for them. Good morning, Janelle.
Hey, Andrea.
How are you doing? You look radiant.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
I feel it.
You do? You're blooming flowers and butterflies.
Yes. There's all that rain that happened this week.
Oh, I love that rain.
Yeah. I stayed upstairs under the temple, under the skylight, and just watched the rain and then the lightning storm.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was really beautiful.
I would love to do that. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, well, speaking of this, we're going to talk about today about our in real life conversations, Braveheart conversations that we've had.
Yes.
And we like interacting with our people.
Mm-hmm. In real life.
In real life, IRL. And so let's just start out with some stories about our glitter and how that helps us interact with people.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, I want to hear your story. Little story.
Okay.
About the glitter on your boobs.
The glitter on my boobs. All right, so I have been getting mammograms now for 20 years. I've been going every year since I was 30 because of my family history.
Oh, every year. Yes.
Every year. So
it's a lot of boob smashing.
A lot of boob smashing. Yes. And this time around, I went for my annual. And, for anyone who's gone for mammogram, you're not supposed to have deodorant on or lotion on. Perfume and all that.
Yeah.
So I had showered, but I hadn't really paid attention to the fact that I had covered my throat chakra in glitter the day before and hadn't scrubbed it off. So I got there and I was like, oh no, I have all this glitter on my chest. So I used their little wipes and scrubbed it and used 5 of the wipes. But I was like, I find certain lights, you can still see it. So it's really hard to get off. Yes. So I went in and I had to say to my technician, I was like, so I just want you to know I have glitter on my boobs and I don't know if that's going to impact the mammogram. She's like, oh, I don't know. Let me see. So we had to do a test. We did a glitter test.
You had a glitter test.
I had a glitter test.
Your mammogram.
So she took the picture and she's like, oh, I can see this little thing, but I think it's fine. She's like, I don't think it looks like anything other than now that I know that it's glitter. So she's like, let me check with the radiologist. So then the radiologist had to look at the picture and the radiologist gave the thumbs up. All good. So now we know at least trace amounts of glitter are okay for a mammogram.
Oh my God. Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Because it's almost always on me now. Because even when I went running yesterday and then I caught myself in the mirror and I was like, oh, running outfit with glitter.
Yes.
It's a nice little shiny touch.
Yes, the sun rays coming down on you. You'll just glow as you're
beautiful.
running.
And okay. So awesome. Good to know. This is how glitter interacts with real life. So I was at a wedding reception this weekend for my cousin. And she got married in Chicago a few months ago, but we had the reception here at my mother-in-law's house. And there was maybe 70 people there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I brought my glitter. And I was just so excited to start offering it to people.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end of there's this massive dance party. Everyone is rocking out. We're all jumping around.
Oh.
So my cousin did the lift from Dirty Dancing with my husband.
What?
In the rain, storming. And my husband ran and my cousin lifted him up and it was a total disaster, right? But he got him a little bit above his head and then they all just fell and then my husband's like, oh, I did it. Oh my God, it was amazing. But the point was that as you looked around, everyone had glitter on their chest.
Oh my gosh, it was you were spreading the message.
Yes. And
joy.
My brother-in-law was like, about, I don't know, half an hour in, he's like, oh my gosh, Andrea, I'm looking around. It's just 6 degrees of Andrea because I see the glitter and I'm like, oh, Andrea talked to that person. Oh, she's been with that person. So it was really fun. And people just received it really well and were excited. And it just gave a little magic to the whole night.
And so did you just like, here you are. I mean, obviously you knew most of these people, but did you just go up to them and be like, hey, want some glitter?
Yeah. So I knew probably 2/3 of the people there.
Okay.
But yeah, I would just say, hi, did you want some glitter? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I'm Andrea. Oh, I'm Galaxie. Oh, it's great to meet you. Wow,
Yeah.
thanks. How does this work? That's how the conversation went. And, we're in a festive mood. And I would say, half the guys also took me up on the glitter proposal.
Yeah. Great. And for anyone who doesn't know Bravehearts, our preferred glitter is Galaxie Glister, because it's glitter that is actually like, mixed into aloe. And so that, the base of it is aloe. And so it's not like it's glitter that's like flex around, right? You're not just like, doing that. It's actually like, almost like a lotion that is.
It's like a gel. It feels like a gel.
It's a gel,
yeah.
Right. So it's aloe gel with glitter in it, and that's what we use. And that's why it feels so nice on the skin, but also why it can be a little bit trickier to take off, which is good. So then it's also not flecking off as much. Exactly.
And if you ever come to the Goddess Temple for a Braveheart Conversation, you get to be part of the glitter ritual.
Yes.
So
that's our glitter in real life story.
Yes. Now we're going to move on to our Braveheart Conversation recap.
Okay, so what we're doing today is we are continuing as the second one of our Braveheart question and answers, or what's your acronym for the day?
Oh, they're not question and answers because we don't have the answers. We're calling them I&I. It's an inquiry and an insight.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And so just as a reminder for our Bravehearts who don't remember what a Braveheart conversation is, or maybe doesn't know, is that these are in real life events that you and I have been doing a couple times a month. And we are inviting people to ask us questions on the topics that we cover in the podcast, right? Because we talk about taboo topics regarding life, intimacy, relationships, and while these Braveheart conversations are not recorded, it's an opportunity for you and I, to actually be vulnerable and then talk to other Bravehearts who are being vulnerable, who are asking anonymous questions, and then we're giving our insight to the questions, and then we're opening it up so that everyone, because like a cross-pollination, and everyone gets to answer what they like whatever the question was, or what.
And the result is that you get held in this space, we get to meet you in person, and you feel less alone in these topics that you're navigating. So we like to do today is just like pull a few inquiries from our different Braveheart conversations and present them to you with our insights.
Yes. And one of the things too is that we do the Braveheart conversations. We do women only ones, and we do men only ones. And of course, Andrea and I identify as women, but there is something special about having men talk about their relationships, and then we're also offering insight. There's some, I don't know, it just felt like we were sisters holding space.
Yeah.
Is what it felt like.
Right. Yeah, it was fascinating to watch that all-male one. So if you want to learn more about Braveheart Conversations, go to permissiontobehuman.live, go to our events page, and you can sign up.
We've got one coming up actually August 15th for women.
In Denver. Okay, so let's get to the first inquiry. Here's what this person said. So what if my partner has less experience than I do, and they see sex as that they have with me as transcendental and the most beautiful thing they've ever experienced, and yet my own experience is just normal sex with them? Do I share this with them? If so, how? Especially because my partner struggles quite a bit, but is growing, and I don't want to stunt my partner's growth. Okay.
Beautiful question. The first thing that I'm even hearing in that, right, is that there is like care and consideration, and like,
so true.
Oh, here's a topic here I want to talk about, but I don't know how to talk about it, but I really want to be received, right? Because I don't want it's, and as we know, hurt, if we're in the dating world, if we're dating, actually not, if we're not even in the dating world, if we're in the relating world, if we're relating to anybody, then hurt is possible, right? We're either hurting them or we're hurting ourselves. Both are true. And so not the thing that I hear is, oh, we can't be afraid of hurting someone
or disappointing
to the degree that we disappoint or hurt ourselves, because then no one wins in that situation.
Yeah, that's what was, I think, the biggest thing to come out of that. And, you know, I think a couple different questions came up. Okay, do you need to share at all? Like, it is hard, incredibly hard to hear these, you know, difficult things. And you have to ask, is that omission a betrayal? Or do you feel out of integrity by not mentioning it? Or not? Like, just make sure that you're asking yourself that question.
Yes, I loved that. And we also, as a group, discussed, like, is this something that, like, they still really loved this person, loved having sex with them. And so it was more that, or what I'm reading in this question is simply that, like, is the comment useful? Because if someone's like, oh, well, is there something, right? If I was a woman receiving this and I could hear it without, like, hear the question of, like, oh, there's maybe other things that my partner likes to do in sex that I haven't even thought about. What if we experiment? What if we try more? Like, I could bring, if I was the partner in this, receiving this information, be curious about it, because sex is not a finite thing. Right. There's room for expansion and for growth and for new pleasure and for new desires all of the time.
If we don't put it in a box.
Right. Like, and so in this way, it's like, oh, this is an opportunity for, like, she could receive this and be like, oh, with curiosity, like, what else is there?
I see. So yeah, this is where, yeah, it's almost limiting. If this person had said, oh, well, you know, the sex is good, but it's not amazing. And then that would be like, oh, well, great. Maybe we should try something new. Is that what you're suggesting?
That would be one way she could potentially, she or he could respond to this. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, if it's a fixed thing that can't be changed, for example, height. Right? Right? Like, if the thing that you're like, oh, this is just okay because it's like your height is a factor, well, that can't be changed. So, like, maybe that's not useful. But if it's like, oh, I'm looking for something, like, more subtle or more intense or whatever, like, that's all learnable, changeable.
Yeah. Okay, so great point. So I think that's, and then the other couple things that come to mind is balance is an illusion in any case, right? Like, there are periods and phases of my life with different lovers or partners where, wow, I'm really enjoying the sex, like, to a crazy degree, and they like it, but it's, like, okay for them, right? And then there's going to be a time when I'm, like, kind of meh, and they're, like, in the stars. And so, and I think, I remember my mom telling me a long time ago, like, you know, someone's always going to love more. Not permanently, but temporarily.
Right, like there's a flow. Like, not, like that two people are not always in the flow at the exact same place, the exact same intensity, the exact same moment in every moment.
Yes.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. And so it's temporary. And so let's just acknowledge that too. Balance is an illusion.
The other thing, though, what I'm also recognizing with this question, and we talked about it as a group, was, but okay, even if you're great, I'm going to say something, which is what the person decides to do, then how to do it well.
Yeah.
Right.
So we had two things on this. Yep.
Right. Here's a hard conversation.
Yep.
Right. And how do you do that well? What were your thoughts?
Yeah. One is to make sure that you have a container or you have rules about what you share in an open relationship or in any relationship. And you should set that up as soon as possible, right? How much do they want to know? Do they want it in an email or do they want it face to face? Do they want it in the morning? Or do they want it in the evening? Like, set it up and, like, honor.
Set up the conversation.
Set up the conversation times, set up the conversation structure, and honor that and revisit it every 30 days. Like, literally, this is what I wish I would have done in the poly in the beginning. Because what we did was, oh, by the way, this is happening. I'm like, I'm not in the mood to receive this. I can't receive this. I'm too stressed. It's better at night. Oh, we just talked about this. Like, so this is just about any conversation, right? But I know that for me, my nervous system needs some specific conditions to receive something in the best way I can. And so having that container and those rules and that structure is just kind of a baseline for having any potentially difficult conversation. So I think that's the beginning.
Great. I totally agree with that. And then the other thing that I would add to that is having the difficult conversation from an open-hearted place. And so if there's something that you want to be different, then can you get to the place where you are grounded enough to own that this is your desire, that this is your truth, this is your boundary potentially, but that you're expressing it to someone that you love, and it might be difficult for them to hear. And so, so in the face of them potentially being hurt, can you stay open with your heart? And there are like structures, like there's like this sandwich example, right?
Yeah, I love the sandwich. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah.
You're like giving like, here's affirmation, and then, oh, here's a thing that could be better, and ending with affirmation.
Yeah. So you're starting with a positive and you're ending with a positive. And what I hear in that too that came up is we are potentially in this situation making a request. And we may not be, but remember that anything you want is a request. It's not a demand. Okay, do you want to do the next inquiry?
Yes. How does someone release the conditional role of caregiver and be okay with self-joy as the primary goal?
It's so simple, but pretty profound.
I'd love to start, or
sure.
Because caregiver is the role, like when I took my BDSM course and learned that caregiving is the way that the mother archetype shows love. And that other archetypes show love in different ways. And that was profound for me because I had thought that caregiving was the only way to show love, like that those two things were synonymous, and that to know that, oh, actually there's other ways to show love. I didn't have to be loyal to caregiving. I had to be loyal to love.
And so caregiving is just one form of love.
Yes. And what I learned is that while caregiving is an appropriate way to show love between a parent and a child, right? Or if your partner is sick or is, needs help, that caregiving is not the appropriate way to show love between lovers on a daily basis, because it collapses polarity, because it brings in this
mother
parent,
archetype.
this mother archetype, this parent archetype. So working towards taking care of yourself, your own emotions, and trusting that you can speak your desires and your boundaries, and moving towards trusting that your partner can take care of themselves and their emotions, and speaking their desires and their boundaries, will move you from a place of caretaking to a place of self-joy. And for those of us who caregiving has been our natural conditioned state to relate not only to children but also to lovers, then how to get to the place of not doing that is just to practice. Practice leading with, oh, these are my desires, and I'm going to trust that you can take care of yourself even though your desires are different. It can be very uncomfortable. But it's practice.
This one keeps coming up for me too, is trusting the other person's boundaries. Because I think if that other person is not versed in this, or they're not good with their boundaries, then basically what they see in you is, well, you're just being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
You're not giving to me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're just giving to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yep.
like, no, you have to give to yourself.
Yes.
This is so hard.
Right. Practice for both sides.
Yeah. Great.
Okay, the next inquiry?
Yeah. So my partner and I have sexually honest talks about our relationship. We agreed that we will enjoy each other as long as we feel called to each other and that we're together for a reason and a season.
Hey, I love that.
Right? How great is that? I'm like, okay, that's poetry. Our love feels imbalanced, however. She is effusive in her love, more than I am, and she would like me to be very involved with her children. I wish we were a little more casual, but I do enjoy our connection. Do I need or do I owe it to her to recalibrate her expectations and or be involved with her children?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. It's a great question that has so much bigger meaning than even just the kids.
Oh, right.
Love. It's like, does it have, it's right back to balance. Like,
right.
Does it have to be the same all the time?
Right. And I think, right, that the quote here was like, she's more effusive than I am. I think that that's probably true for lots of relationships where one person is more effusive than the other.
Yep.
So that's just like that just is what it is. And
Mhm.
so to me, that's just an accepting of the what is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And accepting of each of our own styles of expressing.
Yeah.
Right? Like someone else might show love through, back to like the 5 love languages, like acts of service.
Sure.
Versus words of affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's different ways. We just talked about it in this last question about there's different ways to show love, caretaking being one way and for certain contexts. But expression can be different between people. But what I hear in this question is that being really clear with the partner about what you're available for and holding that, right? So in this case, are you available for like, hey, I'm happy to meet your kids, but I'm not, and I'm happy to like hang out with them on occasion, all of us together, but I'm not going to take on a parental role. And then from that place of clarity, the partner gets to choose, okay, is that what I'm looking for?
Exactly.
Or do I actually want someone who is going to be, have more of a parental role? And then she gets to say, you know what? I love you and this isn't what I want.
Right. So this is really a gift to her.
Yes.
Right. Instead of her being like, well, I'm sure he's just going to like get involved next month, just a little bit longer. And then like they're going to get close enough when he never even had this intention. Right.
And I do think, and I remember talking to another friend who was like, I've been telling them what I'm available for. And I do think, speaking as a woman, that women can often hear what they want to hear.
That's so true.
And not hear what they don't want to hear. So that is
men too, by the way. That's not just a women thing. Like, we're listening and we shift things to be what we want to hear.
Right. So there has to be an owning that like you can only be as clear as you can be, and that how it is received is not actually your responsibility. But if you're standing in your truth, to be as clear as you can be,
and as kind as you can be.
Of course, yes. But the other piece that came up for me with this question is if, like, when I think about my own life, right, like in my relationship where my ex-husband owned a boundary that was really hard for me, right, regarding our sexual intimacy. But what I also acknowledge is that because he held his truth and his boundary, I ultimately, and it was painful for me, came to my truth and where my boundaries were. And so to your point, like that was a gift, is that I really honor the fact that most men would not have, in the face of my tears and upsetness, been able to hold the boundary that he held. And because he did, we both have greater freedom.
I can feel the hurt right now. Like, that is so true. And I think it's hard.
It's hard. But I think all of us benefit when we can stand in our truth with kindness and an open heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we can do that, then you're actually giving someone else the strength to do it for themselves, even if they don't know it or want it in that moment. Yeah.
Oh my God, really fucking hard. I just want to throw one more thing into that, because I know we've already talked a lot about imbalance and how that's okay. And what occurred to me the other day as I was looking at something that was imbalanced was, oh, if I just step back and say, oh, I'm just going to stop judging that right now. Like, why? I'm just judging and saying, oh, but it should be perfect. It should be just right. You know, it should be like, oh, we should both be at this exact level. And that's just like not most of the time how it works.
For anything in life.
I know, for anything, for work and play, for love between two people, for, you know, a relationship or whatever. And just stop judging it and just wait, right? Wait and watch. Because things, even if you wanted to hold on to them, even if they were perfect, you can't, because everything's constantly changing. And this is just interesting. I feel like I talk about this with my clients all the time, where it never gets old. Is this idea of, I mean, you told me so much. Oh, yep, there's impermanence. Oh, there's impermanence. We think we don't want things to change. And of course, a lot of times we don't. I don't want my child to grow older. Oh my God, I don't want to die. But I also don't want to be hot and miserable sitting in the car in 95 degrees in traffic. I want that to end, right?
Right.
With an broken air conditioner. Right? I don't want cancer to keep going. I want it to end. There are things we want to stop, and there are things we don't want to stop. And so just acknowledging both of them. Really
and it's some things we can't change. Right? Yeah. But another thing I want to say on this is that if you don't speak your truth, and you are not clear with what you're really available for, and you end up hanging out with the kids, and you don't really want to be, I feel strongly that that will still be conveyed. Yeah. Energetically. Right? And so that's then sloppy energy, sloppy boundaries.
Ooh, sloppy.
And no one benefits. So even though it can be hard to set the boundary, not setting the boundary, in my opinion, is worse.
Okay, great. Let's do the next question.
Okay.
You want to read it?
Sure. Is it okay for me to live in my full self-expression in the way that I want to have sex, the way that I want to be in a relationship with children, even though my cultural and family conditioning says what I want is bad?
Yeah, so I think I'm hearing like this person is thinking, oh, these things are at odds because my cultural conditioning says, well, you can't really want to have sex and also be a good dad and be a good husband at the same time.
Yes. And I think in reading this, I think like that there's also like, oh, I want kinky sex, or I want to be in an open relationship, right? The taboo is actually in not just sex. It's that there are other desires that we were not culturally raised to think were okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, our insight is, yes, it's all okay. It can all live together. And this is, I mean, poly is often, like the model for poly is that, oh, one person can't give me everything. And so I maybe am going to go dancing with this person, and I'm going to have children with this person. And I might get my deep conversations from yet a friend, and then another partner I'm going to have amazing sex with. And this, you build a village around you. I mean, I think Hilary Clinton said, did she say it takes a village?
Yeah.
It does take a village. It takes a village for a lot of things. And I know this is just a sort of a metaphor for this example, but in general, I'm always trying to help people say, oh, things don't have to live in containers, right? We don't have to commit to a container and be like, well, this is what I chose a long time ago. This is what I have to be. I can't mix it up. Humans are complex, right? The same person who decided to be an accountant and has a collection of vinyls and lives in a Victorian house when she was 32, at 51 might decide that she wants to be a DJ and move to Austin and realizes that she's a lesbian. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like you can mix things together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like the mundane's always hanging out with the magic,
Mm-hmm.
and that's just how it works. And so, but I think it's so fascinating that this question came up. So like, wait, can I be all of these things at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just such a huge resounding yes for me.
Yes.
Like,
It's the fuck yes of, if this is the truth of you, and that the truth of you is coming from a heart-centered place with kindness and consent,
right.
then fuck yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Even if you've been told it's not to. And in fact, that's the definition of a brave heart.
Exactly. Being brave enough to confront your fears about breaking societal norms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Next, inquiry.
Yes. Balance has really been what was one of the themes of the last couple of questions. It's fascinating.
So how do I create the balance between my heart needs, love, sex, exploration, connection, and a purposeful life on a mission? So this is a little bit different, right? This is like, how do I make sure I'm filling my cup and remaining inspired on my path and fulfill the needs in a relationship with someone else?
Fulfill the needs and the desires, I would say.
Yeah, right. Good point.
And I think this comes back, like we've said balance a lot, and that there is no balance, right? That you're constantly spending more time on this or on that, right? Like you're not all like none of us are having sex 24/7, right? Even if you think we want to, not actually possible. So like there's time for sex, then there's time for eating, and then there's time for work, and then like so there's in any given moment there's probably just one or a couple of things happening, and they're different spots.
Yeah. And I think your example of like the way that you live your life, like, because I'm always watching and being like, how is she doing that? How is she doing that? Like, you know, but I've heard you say and explain as you fly off to Philly and you're having meetings, and then you go see your dad, and then you're going on a date in New York City, and then you're seeing friends in Carolina, like, and you're doing so many things in this tight, you know, maybe 5-day container. But what I also hear is that you're constantly being present for each one of those. You can totally make the transition.
Yes. Right. If I'm with my dad, then I'm with my dad. And I actually have, when I am doing whatever it is I am doing, and I can just hold that as then that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Then I feel so much lighter. And so I have allowed, like, spaciousness allows for me to, even though it sounds like I'm doing a lot of things, it's like, oh, but this is the thing that feels alive in this moment.
Now. Yeah.
And I also recognize, right, as for people know, like, you know, I don't live a structured life. I don't have children. I don't have predictability in my schedule, which does work for me. But another way to describe it is that it's immersive, right? The presence is also immersive, which is that, you know, like I can go see a lover for a weekend, and then I get to be like, I'm in my like lover sex mode for a weekend. And then I come to see my dad, and then like I'm in my dad child role for a couple of days. And then I come back to the goddess temple, and I'm in my nourishing, resting, hanging out with you, seeing you. So then I'm in that for 5 days. And so it's not that in my situation that I'm having sex in every moment and I'm not caretaking my dad in every moment. It's like, oh, but I'm doing it for intensive periods of time, blocks of time.
I think there's something that, I guess I'm playing devil's advocate here, that someone says, well, so you just go and visit your dad and then you don't think about your dad any other time? And I'm sure that's not true. You know, your dad's on your mind maybe when you come home or when you're doing different things. And so I just feel like it's important to say that breaking these things up just allows you to be present for whomever you're with at the time. It's not like you forget about them when you leave. Yes. Oh, I caught you. Right.
Well, it's. I mean, like I talk to my dad almost every day, so it's. I'll say this. This is probably more surprising, is that I actually don't miss the goddess temple when I'm not here. Because
you've said this before.
Because I'm like, oh, I'm home wherever I am. And it's not that so I'm like, oh, I'm in a hotel room in New York. That's my home in this moment because that's where I am at. And with my dad, it's not that I don't like forget about him, but it's like, oh, I'm home with him in this moment when I'm there with him. And then it's like, oh no, now I'm home at the goddess temple and I'm just making a phone call. It's a different, like,
yeah, it's different energy.
Yeah,
I think it's really fascinating. So just a quick contrast is that, like, this would never work for me. Or, I mean, not never, but it does not work for me right now. Like, my life is much more structured. And also just my nervous system isn't quite as good at transitioning that quickly. So when I'm apart from my home, my family, I'm present there, but then I do miss, like, I'm like, no, I need to go back home now. Right. And I need to go be in that energy for a while. And, you know, and I still feel at home in myself, but still there are some things that, you know, that normal that I sort of am attracted to, and like why I'm choosing to live where I live. But I need more time between.
Yeah, that's all that is great noticing.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Like, I don't think that my way is by any stretch a better way.
No.
I think you're
just saying find your way. Like,
yes.
Like find what works for you. Like, and maybe you need 2 hours of transitioning. Maybe you need 2 days. Like, I know that I need that. In fact, I used to say when I would drive back to my parents in the Midwest, like, and I used to make that drive a ton. And it's like, 13 hours. And I was like, oh, I need all of this time. Like,
in the car, 13 hours in the car.
Yes, 13 hours in the car. Like,
transition.
Drive back. I'm like, I need this time to, like, shift back to this different role. And it really was helpful. And then when I would return, I needed that time too. To, like, shift away from the home kind of daughter role and go back to, being a wife and a friend and a girlfriend and mother. So
that's actually how I feel about flights, right? I actually used to think that I really wanted teleportation. But then
yes.
And I was like, oh, actually, this is
for sure
that time thing. The other thing I want to say is that, just back to the question, is that I actually feel there's a relationship between this, the heart piece and the purpose piece, in that I believe love, sex, connection, relationship, when that's getting fed, then it can, like, help recharge the person to go out and then be okay, now I'm on purpose, and now I'm on mission, and now I'm doing all those things, whatever that is, like going to work, having the meetings, creating the vision, putting all that energy out, and then at the end of that day, that week, whatever it is, it's like, whew, I'm ready to be I need to recharge again, and then you go back and get recharged. So, like, they actually, I feel like, weave together in this beautiful way that's actually essential to being able to be fully expressed. I don't think any of us are really, if our heart and sex and spirit are not connected and activated, then our purpose is gonna not be blossom as much as it could.
Okay. I think it depends on your situation. I think that is true, but I guess I don't want to put any pressure on people to be like, well, you have to, like, somehow be sexually active to, like, support your purpose.
No, and I don't think so. And so thank you for pointing that out. I think it's like the erotic energy, which does not necessarily mean sexual, but it's like the life force energy. It's the creative energy. It's like, how are you getting nourished?
Right. At an energetic level.
Yeah.
And I think it's important, the people that you bring into your life, right? If you're not feeling like you can get replenished and nourished and then go back, if there's any kind of bitterness or resentment about the time you're spending on your life purpose and mission from other people in your life, I mean, that's something to look at.
Yeah.
And see if that influence is good or not.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think it's the last question.
Okay.
What do we got here?
All right, I've got it here. So, how do I present the possibility of non-monogamy with a long-term partner who is not ready? They are intimidated and scared by the idea of something other than the monogamy we've been practicing for a long time. And how do you even entertain the idea or present the idea if you're the only one who's curious about it?
And talk about that. Maybe just talk about the skills.
The skills.
Here. Yeah.
This,
like,
for me,
tactics.
The book that I highly recommend is Tristan Taormeino. Is Opening Up by Tristan Taormeino. And this is the book that I first started reading with. And one of the key parts of this is you go as fast as the slowest person.
That's right. I remember that. Yeah.
But it also, the book itself is just a great resource. So I recommend that. And she gives some thoughts on how to approach this, right? Like, are there other resources and tools that you need? Do you want a therapist while you're having this conversation or while you're opening the door to this? Do you read books together first, which is what, my ex-husband and I did. We read, I don't know how many books before we actually did anything, right? And it was reading the books that I got to see myself in, like, oh, there's a truth for me in this. Or is it listening to podcasts? But back to the first question that we had we talked about is, how do you present it? Also, again, like this open-hearted thing, like, oh, this is my truth. I love this relationship and I want us to continue and I want us to grow. And there's a part of me that needs something else. And standing in the truth of that is hard for me because I'm afraid to disappoint you. And yet I can't disappoint myself. And I would be if I don't even mention it.
Yep. That's it. It's not easy conversations, no doubt about it. But they're worth having a little bit at a time. Yeah, it's a struggle. Like I just remember it's funny though. I will say about if someone is looking to change their relationship from monogamy to non-monogamy. Let's say in the beginning, it can be like, oh, this is exciting. This is interesting. Like because I have to say in the beginning for us, let's just like.
Yeah, but both people were curious about it.
True. Curious, but only one was active.
Right.
And yes, both people were curious, but I would say even if someone is not sure and the other one's like, okay, I want to try this, and the other one's like, I don't know, but like, all right, we can try it. Like, basically what happens is that linearly we might be on board, or we might think, okay, I see why this makes sense. But the body does have a hard time catching up with the head. That's my consistent experience. And so I would agree to something, even because I started this a long time ago.
Right.
And then when my husband started it, I was like, oh my God, this is fucking hard. Like,
right. But you'd already been doing it for years.
Yeah.
You were the active one for years.
Exactly. Just a couple, but yeah. And so I think just expect that this is a long process of like, you might agree to something in the beginning and get it. And then you have to like, you might want to say that your mind, your heart, your gut, and your sex each have their own pace at catching up with what's going on.
Yes.
So I'll just leave it there.
I also want to bring in what one of the other people said, right? I mean, and we're kind of collating the voice, all of us in these conversations. This is not just like what you and I responded to with these.
Yeah.
These are not just our insights.
True. Yeah, because she had a lot of things to say about this too.
Yeah. But that one person said, in the conversation, like, you could blow it up, the relationship. You can either blow it up now or you can blow it up later. And I think that the energy, the insight from that particular person was, if it's your truth, then it's going to happen. It's going to come out if you don't mention it or not, right? And even if, obviously, I think in this particular question, the goal is not to blow it up because the relationship is really beautiful in lots of ways. So that's not the goal. But if the truth is that there's something that is not, a need that's not being met, and in this case, we're talking about opening the relationship, but it could be anything, right?
Yeah,
it could be. It could be that like you're the breadwinner and your partner's not working, and you want them to be working.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like just changing the format of your house and your
right.
life. Yeah,
right. That if there's something that's not working, that ultimately, I remember we used to say this in our relationship, like, the resentment will build, and when resentment builds, because you haven't said anything, then that is very noticeable.
It's going to come out energetically, just
right.
like you said about the kids.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Those are our Braveheart Conversation recap, inquiries and insights. If you have any inquiries as a Braveheart, if you want to be a Braveheart, if you're already a Braveheart, please reach out. Look on our website, permissiontobehuman.live, to check out the events. And we'd love to see you in real life soon. Bye. Love you.
Do you need permission to be human? You got it. Listen, subscribe, and review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Learn more about us at permissiontobehuman.live.